Hello. Welcome. I meant to hit the fade button, not the cut button. That's a little more sudden than I was expecting. But hi, welcome to the stream. I'm Ryan. I'm going to be making some video games today. Making a video game. Part of a video game. So for those of you who haven't seen any of my previous streams, I'm currently working on a fighting game. I know pretty much nothing about the fighting game genre specifically, other than, playing Smash Bros. But it was something I was curious to learn about, so I had an idea for a project, and I started working on it, and figured I would bring other people on that journey with me. What we're going to be doing here today is I'm going to go over a bit of what I've done on the project so far, talk a little bit about how I'm using playtesting and data and graphs and metrics to improve this project and kind of guide my design and development. Then maybe if there's some people around that got some questions, we can do some Q&A, and then wrap up with a little bit of just work on the project, get to see my process, and then talk about where we're going to go next time. My plan is to try and do these streams, some really focused streams every Thursday. Maybe just during the week do some just me working. Hi Sarah, welcome to the stream. For those, my girlfriend just posted in chat. Sorry, I'm pulling up my notes here because I am prepared. So like I said, I'm building a fighting game. I had just kind of the idea for a core mechanic when I got started, and nothing really past that. So my core mechanic is that it's a fighting game with 3 distinct classes and a what's called I'm going to say an intransable system. I forgot the technical term. A rock paper scissors balance mechanic where each of the 3 classes has an advantage against one of the other 3 classes in the manner of the childhood game rock paper scissors. So in this case, my classes are, I have a fist fighter, I'm calling the scrapper, a sword fighter, I'm calling the sword fighter, and a gun ranged class, I'm calling the shooter. So I got my 3 S's, like alliteration. I think it just makes things so much cleaner. I have kind of an idea for a little bit of a unusual, relationship between these, where you would think obviously the shooter would have advantage over both of the other classes. It's actually not the case. So the shooter has the obvious advantage over the fist fighter class, over the scrapper, because they can shoot while the scrapper is still far away and cannot hit them. However, the sword fighter has an advantage over the fist fighter because in this game, swords can deflect bullets back at the opponent. So that's kind of their way to even up the game. And then the scrapper has an advantage over the sword fighter because they are a much quicker class and can go do some damage very quickly, get in and out, move quicker, have quicker attacks. So let's test this out. I didn't have my controller set up, which I probably should have. But now laptops with limited USB ports. So here we've got our game. You can do a little testing with it. So right now, go in, I just have a little arena section here. Once the game actually loads. And it just spawns in a random character whenever you start something new. So right now it's got the sword fighter versus the sword fighter. Got my simple movement, running, dashing. Yeah. So I like the idea of movement giving just a little bit of force with stuff. I want this to be a very kind of kinetic game. So I want a lot of, hitting people around and seeing what happens. Kind of probably some environmental hazards that you can probably hit people into. Wow, more sword fighters. I'm going to restart this game. See if I can get some different classes to show off. This is definitely high on the to-do. It's definitely high on the to-do list. Is to make probably either a character select or something to more consistently show off characters. Really, another 2 sword fighters. So clearly not the best system I've got here. And when I do get the right things, I end up, because you have to hit a button to make a character spawn, and so I click the mouse button because that's one of the buttons for the character. Okay, cool. And 2 scrappers against each other. All right. So as you can see, Scrapper got faster than the sword fighter, got more jumps, very powerful attack, and a very quick attack. You can beat people into the wall with. All right, and here we can see the gunner. And yeah, let's see, got this quick. He's got that quick shot, but the scrapper I was able to get closer in. He's also got a more powerful shot here. Let's see if I can get Sword Fighter to show up again. Not quite, but yeah, these shooters, kind of the idea is they're well armored, so they can take a beating here. And next up, we've got, oh, that's the wrong button, another shooter. Well, we will definitely later in the stream, we'll be getting to showing off more of what they can do. So that's a recap of kind of what we have been doing for the past few streams. For those of you who are only here for the first stream, a lot of this will be new. I think I just had the Sword Fighter at the beginning, and a little turret character. So this is adding a little bit more. So our topic here today is math. And the two tools that I'm using as my primary design tools for this game, which is a graphing calculator and a spreadsheet. So neither of these are very pretty at the moment. As I'm using these more, I'll probably make a prettier version of this spreadsheet. For now, it's just kind of got a lot of data that I wanted to get in quickly and mess around with. As I get more data, it's going to be important to get this more organized. But let's go through what we've got here. I have a mix of what I'm calling my pre-design data and also some metrics in here. So pre-design data is a lot other than kind of the hit anim speed and the start time, or the stun time. What's all here is mostly my pre-design data. And that was after I made my Sword Fighter class, I kind of got my structure of the game, built out the other two, and I knew I wanted 2 attacks for each of them. I started designing what are some of these values for the different attacks. How are they gonna play differently, and how do I make them balanced? It's an important thing is making sure that none of their attacks are supremely overpowered compared to their opponents, or if they are, that I know about it and I'm doing something to mitigate that in the gameplay. Which we can talk about later, how you would mitigate that kind of thing, because you don't want everything to be perfectly balanced. Even if it is, gets the same value in different ways, having a little bit, having a move have a little bit of an edge can definitely encourage different play styles and keep what's called the game meta. You can keep that kind of moving forward and expanding. So let's look here at some of these values I have for these different attacks. So I've got 6 different attacks. I've got this extra theoretical where I can just plop in some temporary data to see what something would be. Let's go through one of these. So I've got my gun 1 attack. That's just the main attack for the shooter class. And first thing that's got is the time. That's how long it's going to take to run that attack. So this is based entirely off the animation time. A lot of this game is animation driven, which I haven't done before. But a lot of the kind of animation time is how a lot of things are being set, how some different code is running, how different values are being changed. It's a bit of a new experience for me, and we can look at some of those animations later. But this is just the time for the attack. So that's the quickest time that the attack could continue to run. or how many times they would take to run once. And it's impossible to do it more times than that per second. So it's always going to take 0.417 seconds to run the attack. Yeah, so you can't do it any quicker. So then we have the damage, which is just how much damage does the attack do when it hits. Some of these attacks actually do a variable amount of damage depending on when they hit. For this, I am assuming the max damage for all of this, because most of them do hit at the max damage or close to it. So we're going to skip over the force for now, because it's not really what's important. But we get to this is the DPS, or the damage per second. And it's a very simple formula. It's how much damage does it do over how many seconds does it take to run that attack. And so that gets us a DPS for each attack. And we can look, there's actually a lot of variance in all of these attacks. The gun 1 attack is pretty weak, coming in not quite the weakest, but around 12 DPS. But that's almost half what the fist DPS is. So we can see, actually I think it's exactly half, because they have the same animation time, but the fist does 10 damage, while the gun attack does 5 damage. But then what I have here is these mods. So the mod category is just a way for me to modify that DPS based on special things about the attack that aren't fully represented by just the damage per second. So then by multiplying the DPS by the mods, I get my adjusted DPS. And for that, I'm shooting for about 20 for each attack. You can see most of them go a little bit over. But for the most part, they're hitting around that 20, more towards around 21 from these mods. Where am I getting this mod number? So I'm actually, for the most part, I'm manually setting the mod number. And that's based on these categories here, for just things that I thought were, in general, important aspects of an attack. So first thing that came to mind was, is the attack continuous? And by continuous, I mean it's a fully automatic attack. You don't have to press the button again to run it. If you press and hold, it'll keep running that attack over and over again. So for that, I only have 2 continuous attacks in the game at the moment, which is the gun 1 and the fist 2. So the gun 1 is just that standard kind of automatic shooting. The fist 2 is actually the double kick that'll just keep going over and over again. And so for being continuous, I give it an extra 0.1 to the mods. So all the mods start at 1 because it's what I'm multiplying it by. So I want to start at no change, and adding the 0.1 makes it a little bit better. Because it's not, I don't think it's a crazy big increase, because you could always just hit that attack button again on the right frame, and get that attack in again. So it doesn't actually give you necessarily more DPS, but it does take your mind off something you have to do, which is kind of hit that button again at the right time. So next I've got deflecting, which is specifically for the sword attacks that can deflect bullets. It's an important aspect of them, and they're a little bit less powerful, do a little bit less damage because they have that ability to deflect bullets and do damage that way. Ranged is for the gun attacks. Having that range is a big difference. When you and your opponent are both doing damage to each other, that's a lot different than when you're doing damage and your opponent has no chance at it, because they're on the other side of the map. Fast is one of the more nebulous ideas I have here, which is it's something that's fast is what I considered having its hitbox start on the second frame of the attack animation, rather than later on, like third or fourth. So generally, I just kind of built out these. I didn't put a ton of kind of planning into how the attack animations were going to work, because it's all temp animations. In the future, there's going to be a big animation overhaul. But for this, it's just, does the attack box quickly come up, or does it come up a little bit later in that time? Because that also makes a big difference. If you and your opponent both hit the attack button at the same time, but theirs hits first, it's a different than if you both did damage to each other. So you want to get a bonus for that. Or want to mention that there's a bonus there. This is the biggest increase, which is the multi-hit. Because the Fist 2 attack, that double kick, actually has 2 separate hitboxes that show up. So it does the first kick and then the second kick, all part of that same animation. So it actually does twice as much damage, because it's going to be hitting multiple times. It's going to be hitting twice for each animation. So I want to give a full 1 there, to just absolutely double that DPS, because it is actually doing double damage per second. Then we have the force value. So this is force over value, which brings us back to this force variable. Force is how far back it's going to hit the opponent. Originally, I just had a binary for this, like the others, where I just had something was forceful, and I gave it a 0.1 mod. But here, I thought, after doing some playtesting, which I'm going to get into in just a second, and I've said that a bunch, but there's a lot to go over today. So after that, there's that force value is now setting how long it stuns your opponent. So the more forceful something is, the more time the opponent will be stunned after getting hit with it. So to set that force value, I thought it would make more sense for the mod to actually change based on how much force is being applied. 500 is on kind of the high end of the force. We got 510 is actually the highest one we have right now. And I thought a 0.1 increase was a decent thing to have for a high stun time. And so what I'm doing here is I'm just dividing the force value by 5,000, so that when 500 is divided by 5,000, it gets an extra 0.1 to the mods, which we can see here. This mods, all the manual entries are 0.8 together, because this is actually late, so it's going a little below that 1. And then it's adding the force value. And then the last one I have here is late. It's kind of the inverse of fast, which is the hitbox shows up considerably later in the attack. And so that's particularly I think the Fist one has that. I think probably some of these others. Next we're going to go to talking about how this force value determined the stun time. And that brings us to the importance of playtesting. So when I started working on this, I was working on my own. And I can't really play test much on my own. Oh, I actually got the gunner together. Shoot. And I undid it. I can't really play... Great, I got it again. I can't really play test much on my own. You're going to see me here trying... Wow, is it... let me give it this one. So you can see this... I can't really play test that much on my own. I can do kind of these little interactions. But not much else. So it wasn't until I started, I was able to play test with someone else and see how it all worked together, that I was able to see an interesting interaction with this fully automatic shot, which I gave a pretty high attack rate. And that didn't seem much of a problem to me because it does very little damage. The problem is that when you got hit, you were stunned for a specific amount of time, and that time did not change, no matter what kind of hit it was. And that was a problem because that stun time was greater than the time that it took between shots here. That caused a problem because you could just get stuck being shot by the shooter. Which turns out was actually a problem for a couple different classes and attacks. That they attacked quicker than the stun time. So, I wanted a solution for that. And what I came up with was having the stun time be variable based on how much force was being applied. I didn't want it to be based on damage. I wanted damage and stun to be disconnected. I wanted the possibility of a really, really low damage attack that could stun you for a lot, and a really high damage attack that didn't necessarily have a lot of stun to it. They'll probably be pretty connected for a lot, but I didn't want that to be locked together. I did like the idea of it being locked to force. I like the idea that when you were hit back by something, that actually stunned you for a lot more than something that didn't hit you back. But I have a pretty large range of amounts that can be stunned. We can see even here, the lowest force is 10, the highest is 510. And actually, before I started working on this, the highest was 900. So that meant it was really hard to do a kind of linear connection between how much time you were stunned for and how much damage, or how much time you were stunned for and how much force was being applied. So I knew it couldn't be linear, but it could be exponential, which is how we get to the graphing calculator. So this here is the final formula I came up with for converting your stun to your, or converting the force of an attack to how stunned you will get. And this is the result of hours of work, because it's been a little while since I've graphed stuff like this. But basically, I wanted the idea that there would be a more significant change towards the beginning than there was towards the end. I also had an idea of what I wanted the values to be. Based on, given a force of X, I wanted a stun value of Y. So these stun values are actually kind of the inverse of how much time it's going to take, because it's the animation speed that I'm going to play at. So that's how much times does it take on the animation. So with the default animation being 1 second, with an animation speed of 5, it takes 2.2 seconds to be stunned. Which basically, I wanted to make sure the gun, shooting at 0.4, I wanted that stun to be around 2 seconds, around 0.2. So you have plenty of time to try and get out of it, and not get locked into being stunned by the rapid fire. So I kind of worked backwards. I started, so now I have, this, that formula that we saw on the graph. It's just recreated here in the spreadsheet. And it's just taking that force and getting that animation speed. And then this stun time is the inverse of the animation speed. Because it's just how that all works together. But I actually started by just putting in roughly the numbers I wanted in here, and then did the inverse of that to get the animation speed I wanted. And from there, you can see I plotted those points along the graph. So you can see for the different rough values I have, how much roughly do I want the animation to be. And then it was a lot of trial and error. Just kind of knowing algebra helps a little bit. When you know that, having y equals SURT of x, when you know that will give you a graph kind of like this, and you want that upside down, So to turn it upside down, get the inverse of it, which is not playing nice with me. So if I just inverse this, oh, right, that's why. Try this again. Y equals 1 over sqrt x. And we can see that's going to give us this here. And then just knowing how to add values to adjust kind of how flat it is, how much it curves, where it curves. Let me get a mathematical formula, which I can use in here to determine what I want the animation speed to be for. And more importantly, I can use that mathematical formula right in my code, and I don't need to manually set an animation speed for any of these attacks. I can just put in the code, hey, here's what here's what the force was. Because force actually is a vector, meaning it's not just how much force, but it's actually the direction of the force. But I can get the magnitude, which is just how much force, and then put that into the formula, and that will tell me what the animation speed is supposed to be. And so I can set the animation speed. I can actually pull some of my debug code out here. I was just making sure that the animation speed was getting set properly, because I also, after the hit ended, I need to reset it. But yes, that was how I got my result here, where I took all this data and I was able to turn it into what the actual value should be. So actually, I mentioned I started, with pre-modeling, and that's just, I kind of put in rough values of, or I guess I had these animation times. So I was able to start with that, and that's how long the attack's going to take, and just roughly what do I want the damage to be, and then figure out what these mods should be. But then once I had that, I was able to look at it and see, okay, what values are these? And these were started with values all over the place. I had some at 10, some at 40. And I was like, okay, I need to constrain these and push them together. And that's how I was able to come up with numbers that gave a more even distribution of power between the different classes. But even that was all pre-modeling. Next, we get to metrics, which I've just kind of started doing. So I haven't gone full force into metrics yet. But metrics is the idea that not only am I going to use data to figure out what the game should be like, I'm going to get data from what the game actually is like and figure out how I can modify that. If I go... it was for my first stream, we'll remember good old punching bag. And this punching bag now doesn't just get knocked around. He gives us data. So if I go and play, I can whack him all over. And I got a console log here when he died. If I go look at my console, it can see it says damage 102. He had 100 health, got a little bit over at the end, but that's the total damage that was applied to him. Force, which was 2052.996. That's the total force that was applied to him. And then importantly, it gives us the DPS and the force per second. So it's the damage per second and the force per second. So it's from when the game started to when he died. This is what his damage per second was. So it's not full metrics, but it's a starting point to say, hey, my DPS that I modeled, which is based on everything being perfect. When I'm actually playing a game and trying to hit something, how much DPS do I actually get? And so if you look here, I actually put in some values for observed force per second and damage per second. And that was just taking these values and just going and using a single, using a single attack over and over again and seeing how much, what's the final DPS, what's the final FPS, and putting those values in, and I can compare it to what I was expecting. And I think some of these have probably been changed. Yeah, I think these are probably outdated because you see now, it's said 15.1, but his optimal DPS is actually 9.7. So I think I've probably changed these attacks since running that test. Probably, I believe, based on this metric data that I got, which was saying, this is actually doing, more than I expected, or better than expected, or relatively, they're doing different than I expected. We can see that that fist 2, which was the double kick, does actually do. Oh, actually, that's where a lot of the variation is here, because this observed DPS, or actually, it shouldn't be compared to the DPS. Yeah, so probably that's why I took it down. Sorry, allergy has been killing me today. I promise it's not COVID. I forgot I can't say that on YouTube. They're gonna demonetize me? Whatever, I don't know. I'm not monetized anyway. I totally lost where I was at, though. Well, that actually is kind of what I had to cover about the work that I've gotten done so far. So, what I'm gonna... Actually, I do have one last very special surprise. So I'm a programmer and designer, mostly. So what we've been doing here is kind of the very technical design, very programming heavy stuff. I'm not an artist. As you can probably tell by the fact that I'm using... Well, actually, I did make this lovely punching bag that is in a style completely unrelated to any of the 3 characters in my game, all of whom are in different styles. Close in the kind of pixel art idea, but very different styles we can see here. So I wanted to find a solution, and I don't know that this is going to be the solution, but it's something I'm exploring to make my own art, is a concept called rotoscoped animation. And I know it's not going to be as good as these wonderful pixel animations that I got, but I think it'll give me a chance to work on building a skill, and I think it'll be very unique, because rotoscoped animation, for those of you that don't know, is the concept of taking live action footage and animating over it as a reference to get something very close to that live action look. You can get very natural looking movement. It's a very unique style. You see a bit in animation. It's used a bit as a part of animation, and for some things, it's entirely how it's animated. And then there's a concept of computer-assisted rotoscope, which is, instead of drawing over every individual frame, you can draw over one frame and let some AI tools figure out what the other frame should look like. And so this is something that some people on YouTube have been doing, and I thought could make for really cool game art. So I started doing a little bit of testing with it. And what I've got is, well, let me pull it up and we can take a look. Ta-da! So this is the animation that I've come up with so far. This was including kind of setting up equipment, running through everything. This is probably about an hour of work to get this animation. Meant to be a new version of the Heavy Punch from the Scrapper class. As you can see, it's obviously got some technical issues with it, Doesn't look perfect. Although I feel like I'd be comfortable really throwing this in the game now, actually. But it definitely, you know, it definitely needs some work before it's ready for a final version of the game. And so that's what I'm going to be trying to do over the next couple of weeks, is seeing with a better filming setup, kind of obviously better styling. But, this was just me quickly doing the rotoscope on the first frame. So I'm just trying to figure out, what do I need to do to make this good. For those that are interested, this is the live action footage that was used for reference. I wanted to kind of match the time of the current attack. So this was actually cut down from a 30 frames per second video. So it's at 30 frames per second, and this is 12 specific frames. So I didn't just compress it, which is something you can do in Premiere, is just say, hey, take this footage and speed it up. But I actually kind of specifically sped up the beginning and the end to try and get most of it on the punch being out there, and a little bit on getting the kind of the wind up and the pullback. But that is a little bit of what the goal is for animation coming up. So hopefully we'll be able to get that all replaced and looking nice at some point. So that's what work has been done so far. So for the rest of the stream, if anybody's on, you can definitely ask some questions. I'll be happy to answer, but I'm actually going to be taking a quick break, about 5 minutes. And then I'm going to be back, and I'm just going to be doing some work. Stuff I've got planned. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be doing. But I definitely need to do more data stuff. Need to take some of my assumptions that I'm making in my spreadsheet, such as kind of what does it mean to be fast, or what does really that's the big thing, is fast and late. That's kind of ambiguous terms. I'd like to actually link more to how long a hitbox is on screen, how many frames it has, or I guess how much time it has. Because I'm not necessarily using the same frame rate on all my animations right now. But how much time it's on, and then how big it is. I think those are very important aspects that I can get real world numbers out of, and use that to figure out what they should be. And then also kind of need to work on a roadmap for building different features. We got a lot of stuff going on. So figuring out what's important, what needs to come up, how to do different things, what order to do different things, more of the production stuff. So I might start doing a little bit of that today. Then probably won't get to it, but I do need to set some more tracking hooks. So hooks are like what the punching bag did, where it would gather data from how it was being hit and give me that data at the end. I'd like to put more of that in for the actual fighters themselves, so that they can see what is, how are they getting hit, what's the type of damage they're getting hit with, and get all of that data. And we can put it together and get it out. So that way, once I release this game and have people start playing it, then I can gather that data and actually see which characters are doing better, which attacks are doing better. Are people only using the heavy attack on the fight on the scrapper, or only using the double kick, and figuring out what that is and what I need to change. So that's another thing we want to do today. And I'll get started working on that when I return in 5 minutes. If I can find my streaming software. You can tell I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing making games. I don't know what I'm doing streaming. All right, yeah, you get it. All right, I will be back in 5. Welcome back. I've returned, and I have decided that I will be going with taking my hitboxes and turning that into data. Um, so I'm going to look at the hitboxes for all the attacks, and I'm going to try and get their their size and time on screen. Not sure where I want to put it. Yeah, I think put it in between here is going to be good. So, hitbox time, hitbox size. Yep. So I'm probably gonna have to change some stuff as I'm doing this. Get so many things open. I can actually probably close some of this. I should have thought of that sooner. I don't need this open. This is just me doing the reverse. I probably could have showed you guys some of my process on there. Cancel. No. I want to close this, not Unity. Don't need my GIF there anymore. So you can see I got here. So here's where I'm going to need to change the hitboxes. You can see he goes, he punches, hitbox is there, goes away. But the hitbox is partially inside of his own collider. I guess damage box is what the proper term is for this. So that's not a problem because it knows that it can't hit itself. So it's not going to do any damage there, but we need to know we need to be able to know how big it is. So if I look at its size here, it says 0.97 by 0.67, which is perfect. It lets us know exactly what we want to know. But part of that is overlapping, so that doesn't really count. So we're going to need to scale it down and move it over. And I want to get this pretty much exactly on the edge. Because also, if I leave like a little gap here, that's kind of just as bad in the other direction, because anything that's in that little gap would already be overlapping this hitbox. There's nothing small enough that could fit between it. So it's just like having it bigger than we think it is. So I'm going to try and count, I guess, frames over samples that it's on for. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 frames over 12 samples. It's 12 frames per second, so it should be like a third of a second that it's on screen. I can just, to keep things simple, I can just have my spreadsheet do all the math. And then 0.56, 0.67, which I can also have my spreadsheet do the math on that. So this is fist 1. So if I remember, 0.56 times 0.67. Did I remember that correctly? I did. No, I didn't. It's 0.59. And that will let me know the complete size of the hitbox. And then my hitbox time is going to be equal to 4 divided by 12. Yep, I was right, third of a second. I actually want to take a lot of these numbers and reduce them. I think 2 values is good for this. 2 is good for DPS. Because I just don't need that much layers. I guess time for other places I'm using 3 figures. So I'll try and keep that consistent. All right, and now we do that for everything else. So this is going to be a weird one because I have, yeah, this is going to be something we're going to come back to. This is going to be our challenge at the end. Now the shooter is also going to be a challenge, so let's go to the swordsman. Get the easy ones out of the way. Oh, this is super easy. Single frame of attack. Just have to move it off of the character. Perfect. So single frame over 6 samples. And 137, 121. So it's got a big collider. And its time is, it's 1 frame over 6 samples. Now this one, I think, interesting. So this is, so this also has 2 different sizes, but over just 2 frames. So I'm just going to take the average of the sizes. Also, for modifying it, I wasn't including this part, but for the reasons we just talked about, I'm gonna want to. I also think, based on how visual this is, I think it's actually probably going to be a little bigger. Because the visuals have it very upwards. I'll take that down a bit. So, like I've mentioned, this is all getting replaced anyway, so no reason to be too much of a perfectionist on it. All right, now this, I actually think I'm going to reduce the size and just move it in. Yeah, that looks good to me. So this is 2 frames over 6 samples. It's a bit easier. Okay, so 1.05 and 0.27. 1.05 times 0.27. Sorry, I'm a bit stuffed up. I had, like I said, real bad allergies today. Went for a jog. Big mistake. So I'm actually going to... Sorry, 1 second. I will be right back. All right, I am back. So here what I'm actually going to do, because we're going to have two values, so I'm going to just look for the average of them. So I'm just going to add them together and divide them by 2. So the other one is 1.35, 1.44. So 1.35 times 1.44. Didn't like it. Means that. Oh, I didn't put the 2 at the end. So here, I have my hitbox time and hitbox size. And I actually think, now that I've got a couple of these values in, I think there's something to be gained by multiplying them together. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what I'd call this. I can probably just put it in the formula. But I think these values are going to be multiplied by each other. And that is what's going to let us know how much a hitbox is, or what the value of the hitbox is. All right, so the shooter is going to be a totally different beast. So I'm not sure how I'm going to equate its values yet. So let's just go for the difficult fighter or scrapper. So now that I've done the sword, I kind of got an idea of what I need to do. It's just going to be more for that. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 frames of attack data. So that part's easy. That's going to be 4 over 12. 4 divided by 12. Gotta make it. I didn't make it a formula, so I thought it was a date. So that part's easy. Did I made the mistake again? Oh, now that it's, let me undo. Equals 4 divided by 12. Okay, yeah. It's just after I made it a date, it was like, oh yeah, we're a date. Oh shoot, did I? No, redo. I accidentally got rid of. I was not paying attention to my undos. So I'm gonna have to go back to my swordsman again and look at his attack too. All right, 135, 144. 1.35 times 1.44 plus 105.27, 105, 1.05 times 0.27. And then I don't actually even remember if I need this. That these extra parentheses. I just like to overuse parentheses when I'm writing formulas. Visual Studio is actually nice when I overuse parentheses. It'll like color them and be like, hey, you don't really need this. Sometimes I'll leave it just because it's nice to have that extra data. So that I can, it's nice to visually be able to see, okay, this is where the information is connected. But it is nice that Visual Studio will let me know when it's not strictly needed for the computer. All right, so Scrapper. So first things first, let's actually probably come in a little bit anyway. Okay, perfect. 0.47, 0.67. 0.47 times 0.67 plus 0.43, 0.67. 0.43 times 0.67 plus this is interesting. I was just kind of sloppy with this hitbox. But it makes for a really weird part of the attack where you can like hit the person below you if you're standing on them. But looking at this animation, I don't want that. It is something I'd be interested in having as maybe a different attack. I do like the idea of directional attacks. Eventually, I don't think I think it's probably a while off once I've got more core gameplay running. I did actually. So I don't think it's strictly speaking necessary. All right, 0.41, 0.58. 0.41 times 0.58 plus, and I think got one more left. Yeah. So this is interesting. Most of the hitbox is actually inside on this one. So I do like having that little bit of extra words. Like you don't hit them on that frame. Like you do have a little bit of time to get them. Perfect. All right. So sorry, I think there might be some background noise going on. My family's using a blender. I'm actually gonna mute they might be done. I'm just gonna try and talk whenever the blender's going, so I can hopefully distract you. All right, 0.13, 0.6 is the last part. 0.13 times 0.6, and then divide this all by 4. And that is our hitbox size there. And now the question, do I want to do a range? Okay. So here's the big question. Is do I want how do I do this for the ranged attack? Because they do have a size. And they don't have a time. At the moment, they do not have a time limit. So I could set the size to a default, or I should set the time. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to do a default of 1 and put in their whatever their hitbox size is. And it's going to be the same for both of them. If I go... It's not this bullet. It's this bullet. I can see... Oh, it has a circle collider. Interesting. With a radius of 1. Oh, wow. I remember... I want to say pi r square is the area of a circle. Sorry. Area of a circle formula. Yeah, I remember. I remember my, what is this? 5th grade math? I know 5th grade math. I can do that. All right. So, I'm going to actually put in the math here. I think I can just do pi. Yep. Pi times times 0.1 squared. Does that seem accurate? I feel like that's not accurate. I guess it is way smaller. So that makes sense. So yeah. So that's going to be what we're using for that. I think in the future I may give bullets a lifetime, and so that will be the hitbox time. Actually, why wait for the future? Let's look at bullets, and let's give them a lifetime. Public float lifetime. All right. So, in our update, lifetime minus equals time dot delta time. And so that's just going to be however much time past this frame, we're going to take away from the lifetime. And then if our lifetime is less than or equal to sorry, 0, then we are going to game object, or not that, capital G game object dot destroy game object, which is whatever this game object is. Sorry, I'll be right back again. All right. So we're destroying our bullet after a certain amount of time. So now we need to set that time. So first, let's do it in our turret, which we haven't been using lately, but I want to make sure the turret stays up to date. So I'm gonna have the turret get the bullet just made and set its lifetime equal to 20. And then our shooter, we're going to add public float lifetime 1 and public float lifetime 2. So I do actually like this idea. I think this actually works because the bullets are so small but do last a long time. I think it is comparable to do it to their hitboxes of the more close-up characters. All right. Make that lifetime 2. And save. And then when I go back to Unity, it's going to have to load my script in. And then I go to prefabs, where I've got my shooter. And now I've got these lifetime values. So I think I want this to actually be pretty short range. Let's call that 3 seconds. And let's call this 10 seconds. I'm not sure. It's going to look like. Also, ooh, got my shooter on the first try. So. Okay, so that easily gets across the screen. This also does, so I'm not sure. I think I want like 1.5. And then for the Lifetime 1, I think I actually want this also way smaller. Let's call it 2. Because it's also faster. So I want to see. Oh, lucky again. Yeah. I think that's actually. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's stopping right when it hits. Or right. Maybe I'm wrong. So I think I want this to go about half the screen. So let's bring this to 1 second. Let's also bring this to. Okay. So I think 1 second might also be good for this because its speed is twice as much. So if this makes it a little less than half, this should make it a little less than full. And it'd be crazy if I got lucky again and got nope. So now I'm gonna play the luck of the draw game. Ba-ba-da-ba. I seem to get weird like same characters. Oh, I had it. Okay, so clearly having characters be selectable is not just important for being able to play the game in the future, but it's important for being able to test things out in the near term. So that should be definitely one of my big goals, probably tomorrow. All right. And I shoot. Okay, yeah, definitely. It makes about 3/4. I probably even. I like 3/4. I like that you're pretty much, at risk of this guy. Yeah, I like that you have to get closer for this. It might even make it so I can make him more powerful. All right. So our lifetime is 1 second for both of them. So it's actually what I already had, but it's actually going to be accurate to data now. I'm going to get rid of fast and late. This might break something. No, because it's smart and automatically adjusted when I move that cell. So how do I want to incorporate? Yeah. So I do like that these binary choices now, there's nothing ambiguous about them. So I can put the binaries in for everything. So gun is ranged and continuous. So I know it's definitely got 1.5 in binaries. This one's just ranged. The fist one, it's none of these, so it can be just one. The fist 2 is continuous and multi-hit, so I've got that. The swords are both deflecting. So now I want to add some amount based on based on what these are. So I kind of want 0.1 to kind of be the I guess the default. So make me think now with the rounding, looking at this. Actually, not even just with rounding. Oh, D6 over... That's a mistake I made here, is these are all using exactly the same value. They're not using their specific force value. Whoops. Let's do 2. So gotta fix up force for everything. Yeah, I think I made a copy and paste error, and all the data was similar enough that I had not noticed until now. So we should see what the difference is here. So these are exactly the same because they had the same values, but they have different force values. So when I change this to D7, you can see it actually does go down, but not considerably. Which I think I might be fine with. I just might want to change my visuals. I think I might actually want to... Alright, so let's bring this to 3 figures. That doesn't make a ton of difference, actually. Okay, or no, 1,000 is what I wanted. Okay, I want to be able to see a difference of 2 figures, so I'm just messing how much the force value affects the mods. Okay. So what I had before, gun 1 with a very low force. Something's not right here. Oh. Yeah, okay. Okay. Gun 1 with a very low force is 1.5. It gets basically nothing from its force, which I'm cool with. Gun 2 with a respectable force. It's about 0.5 from its force. Let's look at a pretty low but not negligible force, which is fist 2. And that gets about 0.2 from its force. So I do think, yeah, this is actually decent. I think I will go the 3000, let this... Keep not putting in that last digit. Okay, yeah, this makes things kind of even. Interestingly, at some point in my adjustments here... Oh, okay, yeah, I haven't updated this for having small hitbox, because this fist 1 is considered a lot more powerful now, because it doesn't have the late adjustment anymore. So, what do I want to consider an average hitbox? Because I think an average hitbox should give a 0.1 mod. I think 0.75 should be the average. So that should be the average of the hitbox time times size. So hitbox time over size. No, time times size over value. So I think that means 7.5 is what I want. So plus like I said, I overuse parentheses, but it does help me keep stuff separate. So hitbox time times size divided by value. So I expected that to be pretty low. Lock this, and so I don't make that same mistake again. Oh, right. Lock that. Because what I had done before, I made a mistake where everything had the same values. I just copy and pasted instead of doing the drag technique, which is useful. All right. Oh, poop. Okay. This is fine. I just want to separate out the binary mods. And then this is going to be equal to essentially this will let me see all the calculated mods. And what everything is got based on calculated mods. And for that, okay, theoretical, obviously. That's, yeah, purposely OP. So Fist 1 has the most calculated mods added. Interesting. So binary, it's got 1.4, 0.4. Fist 1, it's just got 1. Fist 2, it's got 2.1. Sword 1, it's just deflecting, so 1.2, 1.2. Okay, and where does everything end up at the end of this? We can see things have kind of scattered a bit. And I kind of want... So I want to get some stats on my ADPS. So first thing I'd like is I'd like to know the average. I think that's my big thing right now. Is actually just the average. So average is actually still at 21. Oh, but I included that theoretical, and I don't care about that guy. So, not including him, interestingly, the average... Oh, because he doesn't have binary mods. Yeah, let's make this... This guy is supposed to be super OP. Let's give him all the binary mods. So he should have... Yeah, a double hitting, continuous... deflecting, ranged attack, a 2.7. I don't even know how a range would be double hitting. I'm sure I could make it happen. But... So here, let me... it's been a little while since I've done this, but I want to do some conditional formatting. Give it a color scale. This is actually good. I want the midpoint. Okay, yeah, midpoint be percentile. That actually works. It automatically does what I want. So this lets me know closer to the white it is, the more average of an attack it is. Closer to red, the more overpowered. Closer to green, the more underpowered. So I just want to a little bit adjust these overpowered ones. I think so. That shows me that Fist 1 and Gun 1 are the things that really need a big change. So let's see if I up the power here. A little bit. That actually changes the equation a lot. Changes what it means to be overpowered and underpowered. I think I'll actually want to change how my conditional formatting goes. Oh, actually, because it's... So I think, it's been a little while since I've done statistics, but I think the data I need is a standard deviation. Standard deviation. So I want to know what's deviating the most. Statistical. Okay. So that's standard deviation. I can't do math in here. Well, this is something I haven't done in a little while, so I'm not super great at it. So I'm just going to set these to just show me what the big outliers are. So I'm always going to have, it's always going to show me what the worst, the most underpowered and most overpowered are, even if they aren't super overpowered or underpowered. It's going to put them in those bright colors. Because it's not super underpowered. It's pretty close to what we want. So before I forget what I changed. I think I just changed this gun to 6. So I'm going to go to my shooter and change its damage 1 to 6. And I do want to take down the power of this fist. Well, I guess it's just... It actually doesn't even have a ton of mods on it. It's not by a long shot the most. It's actually the lowest modded. But I guess it has the highest DPS, and with the new system, its mods aren't as much. So I think I actually want to take this hitbox. Sorry, one second. All right. This hitbox size down a little bit. So I'll cover that for a second. 0.3. Does that make a big difference? No, not really. I think I just need to take the DPS down. I guess. Yeah, it's really quick. If I just drop the DPS, or the damage to 9, that's not quite enough, really. Well, I mean, if I put damage down to 6, it becomes, wow, so much the most underpowered. Down to 8. Alright, that puts it a little more in line. I kind of like it being overpowered. I think I'm probably going to slow down the attack later anyway. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about getting it perfect now, but I do kind of want to keep the data good. Right, I forgot these. They're for the melee attacks. Their hits are actually defined in their animation data. And I had been... Yeah, that's fine. Their hit actually depends on when in the animation you go. I'm thinking now that doesn't actually work. So I'm going to actually change these to have a consistent hit. this. Actually, I do want it to be a little different. Never mind. Both. So I had before they had done different hit values. So the first kick was a little bit weaker than the second one, but it was a slight amount, so I'm going to put them to the same. Alright, change up the swordsman. And I think that's going to be where I call it a night for now. Swordsman's supposed to do 11 damage. Delete. On here, it's supposed to do 12. And I can delete these. All right. Get consistent damage. All right, so I think that's gonna be it for today. Made some good progress. Went over some data stuff. Talked about how we can add data a little bit more. Yeah, so hope you'll join me again. I'm going to try and do these kind of longer streams every Thursday, probably around the same time. And then, yeah, during the week, I'll probably do, like I had done the other day, just some more chill, not necessarily camera on, but I'll be, watching the chat if people have questions. You can just see the progress on this game. So, hope to see you around. Always leave a comment if you're in. And I'll, give you a shout out, ask any questions you might have. Be sure to subscribe, check back often. I'll see you next week.